Hey everyone, it's the bye week. It's mailbag time.
Yeah, I enjoy this. I always like going through people's questions and trying to come up with answers. And if we don't know them, we just make them up.
That's what we do anyway. This is the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We don't want to waste time. We got so many questions. We apologize in advance if we don't get to yours, but we appreciate all the responses. If people are excited about this team, we can tell by the number we got. So let's start here with Nick at Easy Tiger 2. Not exactly an Eagles question, but do you think the Giants are for real? I haven't watched them yet this year, but I'm stunned by their 5-1 start.
I guess it's a matter of how do you define, for real. I mean, they're better than I thought. They're better than anyone thought. I don't think they're a threat to do damage in the postseason, but I think they're legitimately a good team because, it's like somebody has to be a good team.
And eventually you are what your record is, right?
And I just believe in that so much. And I think teams that win believe they can win. And teams that start off as bad teams. And I think we saw this with the Eagles last year. Once they started winning some games, they started believing in themselves. And the Giants do that. They're well coached for the first time in a little while. He's no Pat Shurmur, but Brian Dave. Well, they both work with Sean McDermott, but they've got a formula and they stick to it. Run the ball, play defense, and throw 6 times a game.
Yeah, they're a tough team,
and they don't turn it over
because they're well coached and they play a annoying style of football.
It is,
but I look at the talent and I don't think it's there. It's not there. So, are
they for real? I mean, they're going to win double-digit games. Look at their schedule, Dave.
You might be right. They don't stink. They don't stink. For a long time, listen. My thing was they stink. They don't stink. They're still not great.
Jacksonville?
Not a gimme.
Win or loss? Jacksonville.
Where is it?
It's at Jacksonville.
Loss.
Like that matters. At Seattle.
No. Just rattle off losses. I mean, probably a win.
Then they have a bye. Houston home.
Win.
Detroit home.
Win.
At Dallas.
Loss.
Washington home.
I think they'll split with Washington. Did they already beat Washington?
No, they haven't played yet.
I'll give them a win there.
Eagles home.
Loss.
At Washington, you have a loss.
Loss.
At Minnesota.
Loss.
Colts home.
Win.
At Philly.
Loss. Well, might not matter, but loss.
So they're 10-7. There's your double-digit wins.
Okay. They still stink.
No, they don't stink. Okay, let's move on.
Next one from Brendan.
We really took care of that question.
Zayas. Some of the major media outlets are saying the Cowboys would have won if they had Dak. Do you think the Eagles still would have won if the Cowboys had Dak Prescott?
I don't think it matters. They didn't.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And the Eagles didn't have Lane Johnson in the second half.
Yeah.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Maybe, but I think the whole game is different if sure. They have Dak. So it's like, what's even the point?
And look, Dak has had his share of bad games. He had a 3-interception game against the Eagles, and this is a better defense than he's faced. So,
yeah, I think they have a better shot to beat the Eagles, certainly, if they have their quarterback.
Sure.
No question.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's like a slam dunk that you look at and say, well, they were down 3 points at one point with Cooper Rush if they had Dak. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, it's a different game. He could. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I just don't think it matters. They didn't have him. Yeah, the Eagles won.
But with that said, of course they're a better team with their starting quarterback.
Right,
he's a good player.
If the Eagles had Randall all year in '91, they might have won the Super Bowl, but they didn't.
Yeah. All right. Next one from our old buddy Sarah Baker. Hello, gentlemen. Why is there such a weird dislike for Jonathan Gannon?
Yeah, I thought a lot about that. I think part of it is Eagles fans want a defensive coach that blitzes all the time. I think they just want aggressiveness. And there's times where he doesn't believe that's the right way to play defense. And sometimes I think he's right. I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive sometimes. But you look at the end product, they've allowed 17 or fewer points in 5 straight games, which Eagles hadn't done since 2009. The points are down, touchdowns are down. It's a pretty good defense. And look, they don't shut every team out. And there's times where it's like, what's going on here? Why are they missing tackles? Why are they giving up that touchdown? But they're 6-0. It's a top 10 defense, a top 5 defense. And they were top 10 defense last year with terrible personnel. And, people are still so consumed by the first few weeks of his first job as a defensive coordinator without players and then facing Brady and Mahomes and Derek Carr in a row. So I think what you're seeing now is a really well-coached defense that isn't perfect. But I think for the most part, he knows what he's doing. He's a good communicator. He does adjust well. That's what people don't realize. This is a pretty good second half defense for the most part. And I don't get why there's so much dislike for him. And I wrote a piece about this. Like Jim Johnson's first year as defensive coordinator, the Eagles were ranked 22nd in the league in yards and scoring. It was like 23rd. And that was with Doc and Trott and Troy Vincent and Hugh Douglas and Bobby Taylor and, with really good players. It takes a while. It just takes a while. He's got a lot of new players on this group and trying to get them all to mesh together. I think they've done a good job with that. But I really don't get the dislike. I understand being critical of a defense, and there's certainly room for that. But it's personal in a lot of cases, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the criticism is warranted. I
agree.
I don't know if I wouldn't say it's like this.
I get
super dislike.
I get 50 Fire Gannon tweets every time they give up a first down.
Yeah, I don't know if Twitter's always the best
maybe
thermometer for that. I think that you mentioned the aggressiveness, and that to me goes beyond blitzing with him.
Sure.
Especially coverages, and you have these great corners. Sometimes I'm like, let them play. Let those big boys do what they do. But so I get that part of it, and I've been critical of Gannon. Overall, I think he's doing an all right job.
Just all right?
A good job.
Okay.
Good job. I think there's room for improvement. But like you mentioned, so many new pieces, they're still figuring it out. And there are some changes that need to happen. And I'm really curious to see what this defense looks like after the bye week, after the self-scout. Will we start to see some changes? But overall, I mean, it's hard to argue with the results.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just looking here. Since the start of last year, it says the number 9 defense in points allowed. And I wish yards allowed was in the same place as points allowed. I have a hard time finding things on StatHead because there's so many new search functions. As far as yards per game, they're 7th. And that includes early last year when they were still kind of finding their way. They're top 10 in everything since he got here. And they're not the Niners defense. They're not the Bills defense. They're not the Broncos defense, which is pretty good, but pretty good defense. They get takeaways, get pressure.
The takeaways are big.
They don't give up big plays ever.
Well, that's why the takeaways are big now. Because last year they're not giving up big plays and they're getting paper cut to death.
Yeah.
This year they're able to get the ball back.
Only allowed 3 plays of 30 yards or more all year in 6 games.
And
one was on the first play of the season.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to like about this defense. And they got some swagger. They got some personality. I mean, they're fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have players now at every level,
and personality.
Which helps.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is from Brian Lippincott. Do you see any trade we got a lot of trade questions. Do you see any trade possibilities at the deadline to get more draft capital, Dillard in particular? So this is one of the few seller questions, and I guess Dillard or Gardner Minshew, I guess, are the 2 most attractive pieces here that another team might want.
Yeah.
What do you do there? Because the Eagles are a better team with Andre Dillard, but he's in the final year of his deal. you have a chance to maybe get a draft pick back if you trade him.
I mean, for me, it's when you're 6-0 and you're thinking like we have a chance to really do some damage this year, I'd be really careful what I give away. Even a backup left tackle. If somebody offers me a 3, I'm going to trade them.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. I was wondering.
Probably not for a rental, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it would have to be with a new contract. But I was wondering like how much progress he's made as a right tackle and how close he might be to – because Jack Driscoll struggled there last night.
I thought he was all right.
I thought he was up and down.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's he's out there against Micah Parsons.
Yeah, no, agree. I understand that. Diller's a first-round pick. I just wonder how close he is to being a guy you could rely on to play right tackle. Obviously not close enough to be ahead of Driscoll. And, they like just focus on one side, but Driscoll plays both sides.
No, they don't like the vote. They think Andre Diller's left tackle.
Yeah, I mean, with him, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he did take some right tackle reps over the summer. I guess it didn't go well. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, for a 5, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
I don't think Howie would. I think, Mulata, he's got the shoulder. I mean, it seems like he was okay yesterday. He played really well, actually. I think I'd hang on to Dillard.
Okay. Next.
And certainly Minshew because –
yeah, I mean,
if Ian books your 3,
yeah, you can't.
You can't trade Minshew.
Captain Colino. D-Jax had the Eagles at the top of the list of teams he'd be interested in signing with. Would he/the team be okay with him as a punt returner plus 5 to 10 snaps on offense?
It's interesting. He could still run. Saw that last year. My concern with Deshaun is the team's culture. He was a problem with the Rams last year. I mean, he could have won a Super Bowl ring if he just stayed there. And he's like, I don't want to be here anymore. Well, you're on the best team in the league. I worry about, and Nick and Howie are so just careful about who they bring into this culture as far as, team first guys. I love Deshaun and his career and really one of the most fun players to watch I've ever seen in an Eagles uniform. Just so explosive. I just don't think it's a good fit. It would be great to see him on punt returns. But team chemistry is a really fragile thing. Quez hasn't really been involved at all this year. Mm-hmm. He had the one big catch early, but, maybe Deshaun could do some of that. He's better than Quez right now, but I think he's better than Quez right now. But
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, it's true. He can still fly. He can still track a deep ball. Yes, ask Jalen who he'd rather throw to, Quez or Deshaun.
Okay.
Next time you go up to him and chat about baseball.
I'm not so sure.
But in any case, I don't think it's going to happen because I think they're just going to be – and I don't think Deshaun's a bad guy. I just think that team culture right now is a really fragile thing. It's growing and building, and I just don't think they would bring him in.
Yeah, and there's no snaps from on offense. Like he would have to – he'd be a return man. And I don't know if he'd be down with that. And he'd be a punt return man. And right now, Britton Covey hasn't played well, but he's returning punts and kicks. So you have to figure out.
There'll be a roster thing there too. I don't think it's likely to happen.
Yeah, me neither. Next one from Dan Toll. How are we doing anything during the bye? Trade targets? Can we lock anyone up to extensions? Interesting. So first part of that, trade targets, I think there's some validity in the idea that, yes, the trade deadline isn't right now, but it would make sense to trade earlier.
Yeah.
If there's something that makes sense. Now, the other team might not be as willing because they might not know their situation as well.
It's the thing with all these wild card teams that there's just not that many teams that are going to want to give talent away at this point because everyone thinks they have a chance. Everyone's 3-3. So, that's why I think you don't see a whole lot of trades early. I mean, if Carolina's got somebody you like or the Raiders or something. But
so how about the name that everyone's throwing around, Christian McCaffrey?
I was surprised he's only 26.
Yeah. And we know the Eagles really liked him. I mean, they were willing to think about using a first round pick if he was there for them in 2017.
Yeah. I'd consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talked on the podcast, I think on Tuesday, about how the running backs haven't been involved in the receiving game.
He would change that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much you can rely on him.
Yeah. So it would come down to, again, what would you give up? What's Christian McCaffrey? What do the Panthers want for him?
Yeah. What are some positions?
I'd like to see some safety depth.
I think defensive back depth in general.
Yeah.
Because their starting secondary is very good. The depth is a problem, especially at safety. But also, I mean, as much as we've liked the small glimpses of Zach McPherson, there's a pretty significant drop off from.
If you get a veteran in there,
get a veteran who you'd really feel good if you lose Slay or Bradbury for a game or longer.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean McPherson might not be the guy in the future, but I'd feel a lot better with a veteran corner. I do think safety. I mean, and look, I don't want to beat up on Kayvon Wallace too much, but when he came in that game, it was a different defense.
Struggling.
And especially going from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to Kayvon Wallace. I mean, it just kind of makes you appreciate CJ that much more.
And they're starting to use Kayvon in this dime package. It's the only time TJ Edwards leaves the field. Imagine if you had someone better as your third safety. You might be able to use that a little bit more when it's advantageous.
What if Reed Blankenship might get a look-see?
He's a gamer. I hate that term. He is a gamer. That dude knows how to play football.
Based on what I saw in the preseason games and training camp, I'd rather have him out there than Kayvon Wallace.
I'm with you. Yeah. Any other? How about pass rush? An edge rusher.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look, Patrick Johnson's given them a little bit. They had Teron Jackson down in this last game. Janarius Robinson is on IR now.
Right. Jannard Avery's out there.
Is he?
Yeah, he got cut by somebody. Browns.
Yeah, I would look at a pass rusher. That's the other position that sticks out to me.
Jannard Avery's now with the Buccaneers. Yeah. I don't think it's a huge priority, but if there's someone out there you think can help you,
and we know they always place a premium on getting rushers. So
yeah,
it could even be a guy that sticks around. It doesn't have to be a rental player.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Next one from.
And I think that's true in any position, just because they have so many free agents.
Yeah. Let's hit the next part of that. I forgot from Dan Toll. Can we lock anyone up to extensions? They have a lot of guys who it would make sense. Who's kind of on the top of your list?
Well, I mean, Bradbury, but I don't think
he's not saying that.
Unless the money's, he's just not going to go for a Howie type deal at this point.
Yeah, he needs to hit the
market. He is at the top of my list, and yeah, but there's a lot of guys. I think TJ's a guy who you could probably lock up.
The tricky part there is you have Kaiser too.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I'm starting to you give me the choice of those two.
Yeah.
As much as I like TJ,
I just think TJ might be more signable, I guess is why.
Perhaps.
Yeah. I think
Gardner Johnson's at the top of my list.
Yeah.
I've seen enough.
Yeah, he's something else.
I've seen enough.
Yeah.
And he's at the point now where he's still getting better as a safety. I think the price tag is going to continue to rise. Yeah. So I would try to get that done.
Yeah. Safeties don't make a fortune.
They make more than nickel corners, which is why he moved.
Yeah, they do.
He'd probably go for what, like $14 million a year?
Yeah. Yeah. There's 21 guys are including everyone on the rosters, 21 guys who are unsigned beyond this year, who would be unrestricted.
The nice thing is on offense, it's for the most part, Miles is the big one, but
Kelsey.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But most year, and that's really his decision. But yeah, but the defense.
Like say Malu, you're not going to do now, I wouldn't think.
Right. But there's defense, there's a lot of guys.
Hargrave is the one we all kind of thought would have been done already. The fact that it's not,
I don't think he's back.
yeah, it's. I mean, it's starting to feel like that, right? Because you feel like, all right, it would have already been done. He's a lame duck.
Yeah. Yeah. Bradbury. I mean, Bradbury, because you think about the secondary could be without, or this defense could be without Kaiser, Bradbury, and CJ GJ next year. And now you're starting almost not starting from scratch, but and Fletcher and Hargrave. I mean, I don't think Fletcher will be here, so it's kind of ominous to think about how much change there might be on defense.
All right, now that Carson is hurt in Washington and Green Bay looks like a mess, when is the Eagles' first loss this year? This is from Ian Bot 5000. We talked about this a little bit on the last.
You're
podcast.
answering a question from a bot.
Yeah, you put this list together. I'm just reading.
I didn't look at the names, but and we touched on this in the last pod. I think I'm gonna say Colts. Just a gut
Week
feeling.
11 at Indy.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that would get them to 9-0. I mean, they're not gonna beat everybody.
Yeah, they're gonna slip up. The rule of averages tells you they're gonna slip up at some point.
You know, that's gonna be a short week coming off a Monday night division game. The Colts can score some points here and there.
Surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't see that coming.
And that wouldn't be a terrible loss. AFC team. It's not going to affect your tiebreakers, but they're going to lose a game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go Colts. They could lose to the Colts and at the Giants.
Yeah. Man, the one that sticks out to me is Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I would have them at 9, 10. I'd have them 11-0 losing to Tennessee. It feels like too late. I just think Tennessee is an annoying team.
Yeah.
They run the ball and they'll punch you in the mouth.
I mean, even if they lose to the Colts, the Titans, at the Giants, and at Dallas, they're still 13-14.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Nuts.
Yeah. All right. Next question from Wing the Third.
I mean, a few years ago, we got a question from Wing the Second. So nice to see.
Are the Eagles
progeny is
ever going to implement some hot routes in their schemes to accommodate zero blitzes? At this point, Hurts is ducking for cover when this happens. This says dunking for cover, but
I saw that.
It should be ducking for cover.
You got to correct the tweeter. Come on.
Sorry.
I mean, they do have those routes built in. I don't think they've done a good job hitting them.
That was one of my things on the last podcast. We're talking about things that need to get better. They need more answers for the blitz.
Yeah, and I think. Well, you mentioned Christian McCaffrey. I mean, who better to throw to on when you get blitzed on 3rd and 5? I think throwing to the backs and getting the backs involved in that would be significant improvement.
Yeah, you're probably right. They need to figure out a little bit more.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Blitzing, the teams are going to keep blitzing them for sure. All right. Next one is from Vu. All right. Special teams not looking so great. Why did the Eagles not retain Dave Phipp like they did Jeff Stoutland a couple years ago?
Well, and I like Phipp. I think Phipp did a good job. He went to Detroit. It's most coaches don't want to. I mean, Stoutland's a special case. He's the best ever. And he's not a coordinator. He's a position. He's a position coach, but also I think Stoutland's not at the point where he wants to bounce around. He's not looking to move up, and I think he loves what he does. He loves it here. His wife likes it here. He likes the guys he works with, and so I think it was a no-brainer. I mean, he was here under Chip, under Doug. He'll be here under the next coach if he wants to. I'm still blown away that he was at Syracuse with Donovan. That kind of blows my mind. But yeah, Phipp was never going to stay here. I mean, he's not new coaches want to bring their own guys in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did stay the last time they had
he was a Chip guy too, but Doug was different because Doug kept 11 coaches. Yeah. He kept 2 Paganettis.
Which is so rare. It's like we forget because it happened here, but that's extremely rare.
Yeah, that was a really under kind of reported part of the Super Bowl run.
We talked about that quite a bit.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying underreported in general.
Oh.
I'm saying nobody else picked up on it. But, how many of Chip's coaches got Super Bowl rings here?
Mm-hmm.
Corey Unland and Phipp and Stoutland. And, Deuce, Chip kept Deuce. He was here under Andy. Chip made him running backs coach, which he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like two, both Paganettis.
Yeah.
Ryan, I don't even remember, Ryan and TJ. Yeah. And there's others.
No, there were only 2 Paganettis.
No, there's other coaches. But yeah, that was unusual because Doug's favorite picking a coaching staff was not Doug's favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the reasons he's not here.
Yeah, and in fairness, Stout's units.
Press Taylor was a Chip guy.
Yeah, quality control ownership.
Yeah.
In fairness, Stoutland's units were great the entire time during Doug. Phipp's unit started to decline, and some of that was personnel. They stopped employing Chris Maragos and Brian Brayman and these special teams killers, but those units started to dip late in Phipp's time here.
That's true. That's definitely true. Justin Peel was here under Chip as well, right?
Is that what you've been doing over there?
Yeah, and Matthew Harper.
Oh, assistant receivers?
Assistant special teams on the Super Bowl team.
But he did coach receivers.
He was assistant. He was actually wide receivers coach in 19.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was assistant wide receivers coach. Anyway. Yeah. What's next?
He was never the receivers coach.
That's what Wikipedia said, but that's wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Johnny Lightyear. Are you concerned about
Johnny Lightyear,
the team's second half slump? And do you think it's a stamina or coaching issue?
Interesting. I think it's a little bit of everything.
I don't think it's stamina.
On defense, they looked a little gassed, I thought, Sunday night in the second half. Arm tackling and guys out of position. I thought they looked they had 2 long drives in a row. I thought they looked a little gassed. I don't think that's the main thing.
Maybe stamina on those particular drives because they can't get off the field, but I don't feel like second half they're tired because they played a whole half of football.
No, I don't think that. But it was like a 13-play drive, 3 and out, 14-play drive.
Yeah, and anyone is going to look gassed in those moments.
But it is a concern. It is. It's fluky, but the longer it goes on, the more I feel like it's not a fluke. There's something to it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep scoring 30 points every second quarter and building these leads, I guess you're all right. But they're going to have to find a way to score some points after halftime, not just a field goal and a touchdown here and there. They're going to have to figure it out. And I don't think it's any one thing. I think part of it is lack of aggressiveness, taking the foot off the pedal. Some of it's just execution. Some of it is other teams making adjustments. And then it seems like after things go bad, they adjust back and have some success. It's a chess match out there, Dave. And you can't be Boris Spassky all the time. Sometimes you're going to be Bobby Fischer.
I know what that means.
I don't.
Okay.
Who's next?
All right. From Philip Dudley. How much fun is this team and how much fun is it covering them? And then he says a lot of nice things. But do we want to flatter ourselves?
No, we don't need to flatter ourselves. But it is a fun team for me just because of the personalities.
Yeah.
There's some really, we're back in the locker room too.
That's the big deal for me.
It's huge.
The last few years were really difficult.
Yeah.
And I think our coverage suffered because of it, because you don't I didn't know the players as well. And you miss out on those moments, and you miss out on kind of knowing what a guy's really going through or who gets along in the locker room and who doesn't get along. You miss all those things. And,
this might be a little too inside baseball, but Dave and I both like writing stories where we have like 4 voices in the story. So like, say you're writing a story about TJ Edwards. Now you can talk to Kaiser White. You can talk to N'Kobe. You talk to maybe his position coach. And you kind of put together a broad kind of look at who he is or what he does well. That's just an example. I haven't written that story, although I did write a story about TJ and Kaiser. And I talked to a bunch of people for that story. We couldn't do that in the past because we didn't decide who we were talking to. The PR department would bring out Landon Dickerson every day.
And hey, credit to them. I thought they did a pretty good job in the circumstances.
In impossible situation. We had a tent, but they were determining who we talked to, not us. And, now we can just go to a locker. You can get to know guys.
And that's the thing. It's not even like interviewing players. It's like, I want to go and chat with CJGJ, who I'm getting to know pretty well.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. I can talk track with
that's really what you like.
Devin Allen every day.
Devin Allen, CC Coney.
No, come on now. It's like somebody in here who understands the 110-meter hurdles.
You had a great question from Mike Quick.
Mike Quick was a hell of a hurdler.
Tell everyone your question from Mike the other night before the game.
What did I ask him? How's it feel to not be the best hurdler in Eagles history?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there have been a few. He actually wasn't, because Philip Riley was a draft pick. He never played for the Eagles, but he went through the Olympic trials on the hurdles in #96. But, Quick was a really good hurdler. And he believes that if he pursued it, he could have been a guy that went through the Olympic trials. And, he was pretty good. At NC State, he hurdled in college, which
it's a fun team
what
too.
If Devin
because
Allen knows that
people, maybe not. People care. It's more fun. People care, and we do our jobs either way. And at times it can be fun to cover a bad team too, because there's so much to talk about. But
more long-term future.
Yeah. But people are invested right now in the city. It makes for a lot of fun, especially right now with all of the sports kind of going. It's fun.
And when you have people like Slay, AJ Brown, CJGJ, I mean, these are great personalities. And Nick's a good guy. And most of his staff seem like really good guys. And it's not like there's nobody in that locker room. I mean, there's no jerks in the locker room, are there? Is there anybody you don't like? You don't have to mention names.
No.
Yeah.
There are people who are, it's less than ideal, but that's not.
What position?
No.
Let me guess.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. But that's there's 70 guys in that locker room. So you're not going to get along great with everyone. And I think that's an important thing to remember when you're talking about team chemistry. It's like not everyone's not going to be best friends.
Yeah. But they all connect.
Yep. Which is very important.
It is. What's next?
Yeah. This one is from Paul Rucci. If Lane Johnson doesn't get hurt, is this game that close?
And it's like the Dak question.
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe not, but yeah, it hurt losing Lane Johnson.
Yeah, there's no question.
He's their best player.
And the whole game changed, and it took the Eagles a while to kind of.
But they also had their best drive of the game without him.
Yes, they did. And it was their third drive, I think, without him. And they kind of found their way, and that's what they've done. I love the depth on the O-line. And, they've used all those guys. Well, they haven't used Dillard yet, but, Opeta. I mean, even Juergens played a few snaps. So I don't know. I don't know what teams have, a Dillard and Driscoll and Opeta and Juergens as backup O-linemen. It's pretty valuable stuff.
Yeah, no, it is. And we're starting to see that. It's fun.
Hey, you deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself. Shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Good pause.
Thank you.
Good pause. A lot of questions here. We'll go through these a little quicker. We're trying to get to as many as possible. This one is from Anthony, number one Hertz fan. How did you and Dave come to do this podcast together?
They made us.
Against our will.
When did we start doing the podcast?
Well, you had your podcast, Roob Knows, which was really tough. It was just you talking. Which is basically what this becomes sometimes. But
what's the difference?
No, that'd be really tough. I guess you're used to it from doing radio shows solo.
Yeah.
But that was a hard podcast to carry.
Yeah, they were shorter. Like I only did like 6 minutes. No, I don't. Yeah, I guess I did. I don't think that was for a long time.
Yeah, well, we had. I think Eagle Eye was Gunnar and Barrett's podcast.
Okay.
And I wasn't on a podcast.
I know I did one with Gunnar for a while. It's all kind of a blur.
Yeah. We tried a few different iterations, and Eagle Eye is actually the name from, we used to do these old digital videos.
That's right.
Called Eagle Eye. So then we adopted that name. We've been going strong for a while now.
Well, when did we start doing it? Like
a couple years ago.
Like 89?
I actually don't know when we started.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I have no few years now.
I don't really listen to podcasts. Do you listen to podcasts? You listen to a lot of podcasts, like true crime stuff, right?
Yeah, I listen to that stuff. November 2018. Thank you, Ben.
Wow.
I listened to some of that stuff. I'll listen to sports podcasts. November 19th, 2018. We'll have to have an anniversary.
Yeah, we'll have to have cake. Yeah. I don't listen to podcasts. All I listen to is music in the car. Yeah. But I really love doing it.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it.
It's for me, it's fun because it's a chance for us to really kind of go in depth where like we do TV, right? Or you do radio and you think you have all this time to talk about stuff and you really don't because you have all these ad reads and commercials and script. But this is a chance for us to really, of course we listen to all of our NBC Sports Philly podcasts, Phillies Talk, Flyers Talk, Sixers Talk, Takeoff with John Clark, the staples. Sorry, Ben.
And I'll be premiering Track Talk with Roob and Devin Allen in a couple of weeks.
But it is fun to do. We get to really talk football.
Yeah.
All right, next one from Bill, Eagles Couch. How many of the Eagles offensive linemen could be Hall of Famers?
Interesting. I think Kelsey's in.
I think Kelsey's in.
I mean, JP's not here, obviously, but
we count him, right?
Count him.
He was here yesterday.
He was. Saw him signing some autographs.
He should be in.
Yeah.
9 Pro Bowls, 7 of those were here.
How many All-Pro?
Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
He was in a world with Joe Thomas when Joe Thomas was winning them, and Joe Thomas is going to be a first ballot guy.
JP has two All-Pros.
Yeah. But when he was at his peak, there was no one better than him.
I agree.
So he should.
I'd vote for him.
Yeah.
Lane's not going to get in.
It's a shame because Lane has the talent, and I think there's a few factors that led to.
Well, I think the 2 suspensions don't help.
Definitely doesn't help.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just the stigma of that. He lost 14 games in his career.
Yeah.
To suspensions, and the injury the last few years has hurt him. So I don't think he'll get there. And
talent-wise, he's that good.
Sure.
He's a Hall of Fame talent.
And look, it's obviously very early. That's the ceiling for Mailbag.
Yeah.
A long way to go. We know that. He's a young guy, but a lot of years ahead of him if he can stay healthy, and he's already very good, getting better. That's his ceiling, but certainly not there yet.
Yeah.
All right. Andre Torres.
What about Sua? Probably not. Okay.
Yeah. And it's hard for guards to get in. So
Sua doesn't have a
chance.
chance.
Well, I'm thinking like for Landon, who could have a very good career ahead of him. But and Brandon Brooks falls short. He had 3 Pro Bowls, very good player. Not going to be an Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
From Andres Torres, hi. What do you think has been the weakest position so far for the Eagles?
I like how he said hi. I
appreciate that. Yeah.
What do you weakest position? Man.
Are we keeping it to
22? I think so.
Okay.
But I mean, it'd be easy if you include special teams.
Well, then it makes it easy. Yeah.
Yeah. They really don't have a weak starter.
They don't. Who's the weakest starter on offense?
I mean, if you're going to include Avante as a starter, then I would say the 3rd receiver.
Sure.
Quez hasn't been a factor. Pascal is a really tough player, and
that's fair.
But he hasn't been a factor in the offense either, as far as the passing game, I should say.
Yeah, I guess Quez would be your weakest starter on offense.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that is just circumstantial.
I agree.
The only other guy on offense, maybe Sam Alu, but he's still a very solid player.
Yeah.
He's not bad at it by any count.
No. No, I mean, it's really hard to find. Who's their worst defensive starter? Hargrave? Gosh. Might be. I don't know. Just by default, like,
They don't have a bad one.
no, they don't.
I mean, TJ's been so up and down.
Mainly up.
Okay.
I think bad second half against the Lions and did not play well last week. I think he's played pretty well for the most part.
Okay.
But it's hard to find one.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty good sign.
It is a pretty good thing. All right. Kevin Rogers, do you miss the days when kick returns were more exciting? I know they changed the rules for safety reasons, but touchbacks aren't nearly as fun as the big returns and touchdowns used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I missed the big plays, but I understand why they did it. I mean, the number of concussions on kick returns was astronomical. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss it, but I understand it.
And I also I miss it for the guys that it affects because guys make careers on that play. But there's something to be said for we get to see more offense, right? We get to see more offense versus defense because of it.
That's
That
true.
matter,
Yeah.
But I get it. Those were fun plays. Next one is from Coop the Chill. And he makes some of these up for
I
me.
did not make that one.
Any concern with the backups after Lane, CJ, GJ went out? Kayvon isn't it? I like he's answered his question there. Driscoll held his own as best he could. The third quarter was a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, there's some areas. And look, every team has areas where they don't have depth. I mean, most teams have areas where they don't have good starters.
Yeah.
So if the Eagles' biggest problem is depth at safety, they're in pretty good shape. But yeah, I agree. And we talked about that earlier. Trade targets. Kayvon's been disappointing.
Yeah.
4th round pick.
That's more concerning to me. Driscoll to me is fine.
He's such a valuable guy.
I mean,
you know how hard it is? I mean, he was playing left tackle last week.
look around the league.
Yeah.
There aren't guys
No.
just coming in. He struggled a little bit against Michael Parsons. Plenty of starters struggle against Micah Parsons.
Sure.
And, they're fine with Jack Driscoll as their 6th man.
So am I.
They're lucky to have him, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4th round pick.
Yeah. Don't think that because he got beat a little bit by Micah Parsons, he's a problem.
And it's just I can't emphasize how challenging it is to be ready to play right guard, left tackle, right tackle, left guard if the circumstances, could be. That's not easy.
Yeah. And he's better than some of their utility. He's better than Matt Pryor.
Oh yeah,
who was kind of that utility guy. Yeah,
I thought Matt Pryor was going to be good.
Yeah, I think he's on par with Big V.
Yeah, I mean, Big V it was crazy how
maybe not. Maybe you give Big V a little advantage, but I think he's that kind of player right now.
He's a better guard than Big V.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but he's that kind of player for them. And Big V helped them win a Super Bowl.
Is Matt Pryor still starting for the Colts?
Yeah, they keep plugging him wherever they think they can hide him a little bit.
All right, I'm not picking the Colts to beat the Eagles anymore.
Next one, a few.
Quick, where did Matt Pryor go to college?
TCU.
That's correct.
Drew Muff. When will Gannon put Davis in on passing downs? He needs to start playing 40 to 45% of the plays.
Take a stab at that because.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily we talked about this before. He needs to start playing in the 4-man front a little bit. It's such a tell when he's out there that they're in that 5-man front. They're thinking run protection, and then the opposing team can start rolling stuff off of that.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him play a little more. And
yeah,
it's not like he's got to play 60% of the snaps, but I think he can handle a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd like to see that number in the 40s.
Mm-hmm. You'll like this one from Kenny Jones. Roob, could they elevate the Olympic sprinter to the roster as a return guy? Thanks so much.
They don't have an Olympic sprinter on the roster.
You're going to correct the commenter.
They have an Olympic hurdler. I don't know. Maybe that's who he meant.
Yeah.
I had a good chat with Devin Allen this week. Just he feels like he's getting better. He feels like he's, making progress. I just don't see him being a factor this year. I mean, the one thing he's probably best at is kick returns, and that's not really you're not going to
elevate him for that.
You're not going to elevate him for that.
I think maybe one day in training camp he took a punt return rep.
Yeah.
Punt return's a different animal.
It's a totally different animal. I think he could help you on special teams as a gunner. I mean, I was really impressed with how physical he was in the preseason games on special teams, which you don't really know a guy coming from another sport, but he was a tough physical guy. We saw him catch the deep ball in the preseason game against Cleveland, maybe. Maybe there'd be a role. I don't see it this year.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, next one's from Andrew Doherty. Where are the Eagles compared to the Chiefs and Bills? We'll find out in Arizona.
My gut feeling is they're not quite as good as the Bills. I think they might be. I think the Chiefs' defense is not very good.
Yeah, I mean, they have the answer offensively, though.
They do. He's throwing a lot more picks than Jalen.
Yeah, but the upside there is pretty good.
Yeah, no, but I think overall the Chiefs and the Eagles might be a push. I think the Bills are the best team in the league.
Okay, yeah, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You're not gonna have to see those guys.
And if the Eagles might make the Super Bowl, end up playing. Who's the third best team in the AFC? The Jets. They might end up Eagles Jets Super Bowl. Howie versus Joe Douglas.
How about that?
Do you like that?
All right. I think the last one here that is not a repeat is from Chris Drinkwater, which is always good advice. What are you listening to these days?
What am I listening to?
Don't
these
make
days?
me regret this. We have to get out of here quick.
I'll just run down like maybe 50 or 60 of like my favorite new. All right, I'll give you five new albums that I really like.
You are prepared for this.
I actually wasn't.
Okay.
There's a band from Manchester, England called Kula Shaker.
Okay.
And they were huge like in the 90s. And they have a new record out, and it's really, really good. Surprising because it came out of nowhere. A band from Philadelphia called the Tisberries has a new record out. I got to play with them at the Exponential Festival at WXPN's festival over there. Their album, that might be my album of the year. It's called Exile on Main Street. There's a band called Always. It's spelled Alvvays. Their record Blue Rev is phenomenal. Really like it. Remember the Walkmen? The Walkmen was a great band. Peter Matthew Bauer from the Walkmen has a solo record out called Flowers. That's incredible. I love it. And then Wild Pink. Obviously you think of Mike Brenner when you think of Wild Pink.
Oh, of course.
Philly's Mike Brenner. Mike Brenner's been on the Philly music scene for like 30 years. Plays with Marat, Buzz Zimmer, some great bands. And he's now in Wild Pink, and they have a new record out. They're going to be on CBS this morning in 2 weeks. They taped that Saturday. Their new album is phenomenal, and they're getting a lot of national recognition, which is really cool. So that's some of the stuff I've been listening to, and yeah. And this band Toledo, I don't know where they came from. They're not from Toledo. I think they're British. Their record's good. How It Ends. That's just a sampling.
False advertising.
What are you listening to?
I just went through the latest Tyler Childers album.
Oh, he's great, isn't he?
Have you heard the new album?
Yeah.
It's kind of a concept album. Yeah. It's 8 songs done 3 different ways. It's like a gospel album.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I don't know if I like it or not, but I've enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. And what's that song he did? What's that song about? Man, my memory is when it comes to Tyler Childers. Brent Cobb did a gospel-y album too, and I think Childers is better. I love his voice. He's got kind of a really unique, different voice.
Yeah, it's like the whale, Appalachian Whale.
Yeah. That's another one of my new bands, Appalachian Whale.
That's good.
We just broke up though. That's good. Yeah, Tyler Childers.
All
yeah,
right.
I like him.
Let's wrap this up. We appreciate all. If we didn't get to you, we apologize. Maybe we'll do this again when it's not the bye week. We'll try to start sprinkling some questions in because we got a lot of good ones, and it helped us fill a day on this podcast in the bye week. If you like the podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Enjoy the weekend watching stress-free football. We'll be back with you next week as the Eagles get ready to return to action. For Roob, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.